How do you stop cringing at your embarrassing past? Realize that the only people remember it is probably yourself. How often do you think about others' embarrassing moments? Next to none, right? That means nobody even remembers the cringy thing you do because they are all too busy thinking about themselves. This sadly isn't true for me. I forget embarrassing things I do all the time. Then randomly my cousin or my mom will bring it up and I'll just be sitting there having tons of flashbacks. Think of your 5 most embarrassing moments. Now think of your best friend's 5 most embarrassing moments. I bet that thinking of your own came really quickly, but thinking of your friends took a while. And for a colleague or acquaintance you might not be able to think of any, even though they will all be able to think of their own 5 embarrassing moments just as quickly as you thought of yours. Basically, these little things aren't a big deal even though your brain will try to trick you into thinking they are. My life got a lot less stressful when I realized that. I mean, I still lie awake in bed at night replaying awkward conversations to myself and thinking why the frick did I say that, but at least rationally I know it doesn't matter to anyone but me. I am 31 and I still cringe over crap I did in middle school. I know in my heart that nobody else remembers that crap, but I sure do. The only thing I've ever heard that made sense was, pretend it was happening to someone else, a friend you know. Would you be so hard on them if it was someone else? Because unless it happened in the last couple of days, it really was someone else. You're not the same person. Self-compassion is the key to mental health, especially if it is followed by compassion toward others. Everyone does stupid stuff, so be your own friend about it. A good friend. Your comment should have more upvotes. When the cringy memories come up, let them come up. Remember them from start to finish, even if it's a bit painful to do so. Experience all the feelings they bring up, and work through those feelings. Write them down in a journal, maybe even confess them anonymously on Reddit. Grow and change in reaction to them, and then you can let go of the memories. Eventually you internalize that the past is in the past, and you're free, as long as you actually grow and move on to new, different embarrassing moments. Just try your best to remember 2 things about those memories. 1. You're probably the only person on earth who actually remembers those moments of yours. Sure, there will be people who might remember 1 or 2 odd moments because they were right there when they happened, but overwhelmingly your inventory of cringe memories is out of stock in everyone else's minds. 2. If it seems cringe now, that means you've grown, and that's a good thing. Facebook memories of status updates I posted 13 years ago when I first got on that site in college are barely recognizable as me to myself now. Part 2. My favorite response so far. Cringe equals growth. It's a good thing. I decided to face the cringe head on. I laid in bed with my eyes closed and no music on and let any horrifying memory wash over me and experience it to the fullest. I started doing this almost daily. Anytime a cringe moment popped up and if I was able I'd take a few moments to explore it deep. Each time I did this, the memory was no longer cringe. Sometimes, it became a story I could laugh about. It took all the power away. I started saying to myself so what whenever I would have a thought about when I was stupid. Who gives a shite like no one else has ever done anything dumb is another one I would say. Defend yourself against your inner bully and eventually that cringe turns to something closer to indifference. Realize that everyone does embarrassing stuff and that I'm probably making a way bigger deal out of it than anyone else is. Oh, yes. I remember when a memory of something stupid I had said came up and I was with this friend who had witnessed that, and when I mentioned it to her, she couldn't even remember. I started to understand that it was only me who thought what I said was embarrassing. She didn't find it embarrassing, in fact. Realize and accept that no one else really has their shoots all together, so life goes on. I don't have to be perfect, I just have to strive to be better than my previous self all the time. I talk about her in third person, to myself and otherwise. I don't really know her well anymore, but I love her. But God, was she stupid. I love this. I have a very silly past self too. When I was 14 I jacked off, and finished, in the electronics aisle at Target. Now when I think of this I cringe so hard, so I just go on my phone as a distraction from that. The department with the most cameras. Thank you for sharing, LMAO. I try to force my brain to go down a humorous path to reteach my brain to associate embarrassing feelings with a funny comedic bit. I've heard some people suggest just think of the Seinfeld theme along with your issue and it'll automatically become humorous. I just did that but with different stand-up routines that I've come to enjoy over the years. Working pretty well so far. For me, usually a handful of different things work. Remind myself that everyone's got stuff they're embarrassed about. Breathe deeply and try to focus on breathing. Yes, I went through the free trial of Headspace and then stopped, so it's not exactly expert level meditation, but the basic focus on breathing thing actually works to help clear your mind. Try and focus on something else, like try and remember the lyrics to that song I heard yesterday or go over the grocery list or whatever. By trying to remember the old proverb that a man cannot step into the same river twice, the river will not be the same river, not will the man be the same man. Meaning that life keeps moving on and we need not be stuck in the past. Realize how boring of a life you'll have if all you do is obsess over your past. Would you rather have a cringy life full of experiences or sit inside the whole time and do nothing? Accept that humans make mistakes. Forgive yourself for doing something you wish you hadn't. Talk about the lesson you learned from the cringy moment and most importantly, let yourself get bored with punishing yourself for your imperfections. Obsessive compulsively cursing and flailing about whenever embarrassing memories enter my head. Mostly. Is there another option? You accept it, integrate it into your personality and move on. The past is the past. Don't look back, you're not going that way. When I have a memory crop up that gives me the cold sweats, I start writing a descriptive paragraph in my head of everything I see around me. I focus on being as detailed in my description as possible. It usually drives that unwanted memory back out of my head pretty quick. Take yourself a little less seriously and laugh it off. Learning to say who cares when you frick up or goof is not only being nice to yourself, but also lets the people you're with know that you wouldn't judge them if they did the same thing. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Let your head relive it in its entirety, then tell yourself it happened but it's in the past and I've grown from it. Obviously don't close your eyes if you're driving. If you can learn something from it, it is never wasted. A lot of life is screwing up than learning from that. That's why pencils have erasers. OP. Everyone makes mistakes. Some Buddhist once said, don't prolong the past. Don't invite the future. Don't alter your innate wakefulness. Don't fear appearances. I'm not really sure on the last part, but the rest seems relevant. It's not easy to be here now, but once you get the hang of it, the world opens up and your anxieties and neuroses become a little less prominent. There is just something genuinely peaceful about the present. There comes a time when you realize you're just tired of beating yourself up all the time. I still have cringe moments, but they're not nearly as intense or as frequent. You feel bad. Notice you're feeling bad. See if there's any residual regret or something like that. If there is, seek a solution to resolve your grief. If there's no grief, then it's all good and know that you chillin'. Example of seek resolution. Maybe you were supposed to run 1 mile, but stopped 3/4 because some chicks were like, look at that fatty. You feel embarrassed and went home. Now you feel bad. To resolve it, either realize those are B and you don't give no fricks about any B who bully others, or finish the mile and frick bullies anyway. If you aren't cringing at something in your past, you haven't been living your life. You should be proud you're out there doing something. If you cringe, it means you've changed, grown, improved yourself enough to realize what mistake you may have made. If you're not embarrassed of your last, then you haven't grown. That being said, we've all had our cringe moments and it's okay as long as we grow and do better. Thanks for calling in an expert. So basically what I do is 1. Make myself believe that people don't remember because they never bring it up, only you might still know about it. 2. Go on AskReddit and search for questions like what was your most embarrassing moment and read them. Then feel superior that at least you had it better than those people. Some are actually pretty goddamn funny, too. Just leave it back there. Learn what you can from it and leave it. That's the only way I know to have true peace with yourself about it. God, I used to keep myself up at night all the time thinking about cringy or embarrassing things I'd done said years in the past. I would just spiral and keep bringing in other things I'd done until I was a complete mess. Finally, I started doing this thing where, when I remembered a cringy memory, I would basically clench my fists really hard, as if I was holding on to the memory itself, and then let it go and envision it floating away in the wind. I still think of those things sometimes, but I just acknowledge them and move on. If they pop in my head while I'm trying to fall asleep, I'll tell myself, okay, I did something silly. It was a long time ago. There's nothing I can do about it now, so I'm going to let it go. Essentially, I'll acknowledge them, but I don't give them permission to take up residency in my brain for a long time. Eventually you have to learn to laugh at yourself in past situations. Someone once said, tragedy and time equals comedy. A lot of our funniest stories revolve around mishaps, embarrassments, or nightmare experiences. With time we usually find ourselves in a better place and realize what seemed like the worst thing in the world at that time didn't stop us from moving forward in life. It's not unusual for a group of close friends to sit around drinking and laughing about their worst dates or most embarrassing moments from the past. Anyone who remained seriously haunted by their past experiences might benefit from therapy. Your future lies ahead of you and not behind you. If you cringe at it now, it shows that you've matured since then and can acknowledge that. At least, that's what I tell myself. Haha. You fight fire with fire. You create the ultimate cringe so that you can only remember one cringe event. I used to cringe at plenty of things in the past, not only in the bed but any time in the day. Then I partially failed my year because I played for a week instead of studying for a test that I could easily pass. I got 9/20, 1 point more needed to pass, and this overshadowed every cringe event in my life. Reduce the amount of cringing at others and the amount of cringing at yourself will also go down. Not meant disparagingly. Similar theory, the people that wear sunglasses when it is unnecessary are usually the type of people that tend to consciously read other people's eyes and they want to protect against others doing the same. Act like a predator to learn how to avoid predators. Source: none. My own opinion. I just don't let it rule me. It's sort of like whatever the cringe equivalent of bravery is. Bravery isn't about not having fear, it's about accepting that fear and doing what needs to be done regardless. Accept the cringe, acknowledge that it happened, take a beat to cringe and move on. Bonus points if you recognize that you've grown from the cringe into a better person. Cringing means you no longer identify with whatever behavior you consider embarrassing. That person is someone you were, and the mental distinction you make in designating those actions as cringe-worthy is all the credibility you need to be convinced that the person you were is not the person you are today, and therefore the growth from that should be the only factor worthy of note, not any sentiments which the original actions may have elicited. Don't stop cringing. It means you're a better, less embarrassing person. If anything, thank your younger self for making those mistakes so you could develop. If you think your past self is cringy, then you have grown as a person and developed a better character, and the process will probably repeat until you find yourself. For about a year, every night while I was trying to sleep I would constantly think about cringy embarrassing things I did in the past to the point where it gave me anxiety and really stressed me out. The thoughts were one after another and the kind that made me flinch in resentment. I tried smoking weed. I tried sleeping pills. I watched TV to try to drown out the thoughts. They finally stopped when I started feeling less depressed and started going back to school and doing hobbies I enjoyed. Now I have things to think about at night that make me happy, like my pet mouse and my projects. I'm also on Rick Salty, which has majorly helped my depression and anxiety. I feel better about myself and actually like myself. The thoughts still come, but when I think about them I literally say stop and force myself to think about something else. Maybe there's something inside you that doesn't like yourself right now. Try to find the good things about you and focus on that instead. Tell yourself stop when you think bad thoughts. By understanding that my aversion to that moment is an indicator of how little I want to be that person again, that the choice matters to me enough to revisit it, then I remind myself that I am still alive, that the moment I was in is not now, Clearly in the now I have time and energy to reflect back, so what I am afraid of is repeating the past. I try to remember that I can make new choices at any moment and become the person I choose to be, rather than relive life as the person I was. Lots and lots and lots of experience with reliving past moments. This is just what I do, and I can't promise it'd work for anyone else. My experience of the world is vastly different most people, so I gotta figure my solution is too. It's not going to change, so there's no point dwelling on it. If you're cringing at it, then clearly you've learned from it, so there's that. 1. Think how little you care about other people making mistakes, and you'll realize most people don't give yours a second glance. 2. Realize that it's over and that you also disagree with how you were or what you did, or whatever it was that triggered the embarrassment. You'll do better next time. Focus on what you'll change next time and forget what you can't fix. 3. Everyone is cringy or has been cringy. They're no better or different than you. We are all the same clueless apes. 4. Remember that if Trump can bear his butt for 4 years and not care that much, nothing you do will compare to that level of embarrassment. And even if it did, you can care as little as he does, with little ramifications. Practice mindfulness, which leads to being present in the moment. The past and future are illusions that do not exist. Your past does not exist. This truth can only be experienced now. I lean into it further, like when Miles Davis used to miss a note, he would play the mistake note 3 more times just to make it seem like he was trying to do that. So I do the same with all my past mistakes. Keep making them, over and over. In an unrelated story, my wife is divorcing me currently. I think about Rudy Giuliani giving a press conference at Four Seasons Total Landscaping and it makes me feel better about everything I ever did. I'm serious. Everyone has cringe moments. Knowing we aren't alone is nice. Learn to look at the experiences as kind of instructional videos of what not to do, so it seems like you're teaching yourself rather than cringing on your mistakes. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.